Today, we need to talk about Typhoon Halong and give recognition to all of the people who are facing the devastation that it left behind. Typhoon Halong was a devastating storm which occurred from October 5th through the 12th along western Alaskan coast that has flooded towns, destroyed homes, and injured and caused many people to go missing. Winds were reported to have gotten up to 107 miles per hour, which is why I consider it a hurricane, which destroyed homes and infrastructure in its wake. Water levels are recorded to be at an all-time high, contributing to coastal erosion, infrastructural damage, damage to cultural sites, homes, endangering wildlife and their habitats, as well as human life. I'm going to put all of the communities that have been devastated that I have written down. I don't think this is all of them by any means, but I am going to pronounce the ones that I can. Kinpuk, Toksuk Bay, Bethel, Nightmute, Eek, Akayak, Chefernak, Good News Bay, Platinum, and Oscarville are the ones that I can pronounce, but all of the ones I have written will be on the screen. The people of these communities have been forced into shelters, which include school gyms, among other locations, and some rely solely on power generators and don't have functional bathrooms. Citizens have also reported not being able to access their health aids. And 5 helicopters and 2 planes were sent by the National and Coast Guards to help rescue dozens of people who had been stranded, but many still remain missing and at least 3 have been confirmed dead. But I want to remind everyone this is the bare minimum, and the people in these communities who have been affected deserve more than the bare minimum. And if our federal government wanted to, they would. At least 121 homes were left unsalvageable in Kipnuk alone. Around 2,000 people have been displaced across 13 different shelters along southwest Alaska. A shelter set up at a National Guard armory was forced to close after they ran out of food on October 15th, which should not be the case because our government should be more than prepared to handle devastating domestic disasters such as this one, because we should be more focused on national security than anything. After the National Guard Armory was forced to close, they then turned it into a temporary shelter for people to stay overnight and then be relocated to a more stable refugee camp. But this does not mean it's a better situation by any means. The materials for reconstruction have to be flown in, as these communities can only be accessed through air or water transport due to how remote they are. And with winter approaching, concerns come up about consistency with receiving materials and basic necessities, which leaves the over 2,000 people affected in refugee shelters without a majority of their daily necessities or personal belongings, as their homes are completely destroyed or simply unlivable, and with grave uncertainty of consistent support from the local and federal governments. It's been reported that although tribal, other local governments, and the state's disaster management have pitched in to help, the quote disaster surpasses the state's capacity to respond without federal support. Adequate federal support, I should add. Some of the organizations that have pitched in to help include the Red Cross, the University of Alaska, health consortiums, the National Guard, among other organizations. But the devastation was compared to the disaster of a war zone by the governor of Alaska, Mike Dinwiddie. He's also quite vaguely said Trump has assured that the federal government will help with the situation, but was not clear with what and how they will do so, which is important information to know, not only for the sake and comfort of the people going through the devastation Typhoon Halong left behind, but it's also a necessary practicality to keep the nation updated with specifics when it comes to domestic devastation. Governor Mike also makes it clear that, quote, there's an urgent need for federal aid to repair housing, restore utilities, and secure heating fuel before severe winter conditions set in. Although it's been said the White House has offered assistance primarily through the Northern Command, which its mission is to command Homeland Defense by supporting civil authorities, the White House has still remained silent when it comes to publicly addressing the disaster Typhoon Halong left in its wake, after Alaska's news source reached out on October 13th for a formal recognition of the devastation. The governor of Alaska estimates the devastation is likely to keep the over 2,000 people affected displaced for at least 18 months, so a year and 6 months at minimum. The lack of concern from the Trump administration shows their priorities do not focus on strengthening national community or addressing and easing situations of domestic devastation. The people of Western Alaska deserve federal recognition for all of the loss and devastation they are currently facing. They deserve national, federal, and international support, not just the bare minimum from the federal government. And everyone who has lent a hand in helping deserves recognition, but it's simply not enough. And with all of the technology and potential our country has to support the people, not only on a local, but a domestic and international level, is tremendous. But it is clear that this is not a main priority of the federal government, especially under the Trump administration. If our federal government was focused on strengthening safety nets and international support, the people of Western Alaska would not have to wait so long for recovery with so much uncertainty about consistent support through the winter hanging above their heads. Now we're going to get into why Typhoon Halong formed at such a catastrophic magnitude. As the climate rises at an unnaturally rapid pace, this hinders a protective barrier of sea ice from forming until much later than it's supposed to along the western Alaskan coast, which increased coastal erosion, flooding, salinization of freshwater resources, and damage to infrastructure, which creates food insecurity and displaces people from coastal villages. Rising ocean temperatures cause more evaporation, which increases air temperature and moisture, which acts as fuel for storms such as Typhoon Halong. Although the source says there isn't an increase in storms to date, which was contradicted, they gave an example of a recent storm, Typhoon Merbok, from 2022, which was recorded to be out of alignment with typical storm patterns seen prior to. Typhoon Merbok, which drastically affected over 40 villages across western Alaska due to its high winds reaching up to 75 miles per hour, immense flooding caused by high waves and water level, and food and water insecurity as a result of all of this, formed in an area where historically the waters are supposed to be too cold for storms to form, hinting to underlying dangers with rapid climate change due to immense pollution created by the Industrial Revolution and consumer culture. The source warns that Western Alaska will see a surge in worsening storms like Halong and Merbok more frequently. The catastrophic storm surges influenced by climate change disproportionately affect Native Alaskan villages as they make up a vast majority of communities along the western Alaskan coast. The disastrous effects vary from coastal erosion, food and water insecurity to damage to agricultural and infrastructural systems and cultural sites, which wash away proof of human settlement in the area, as well as death and displacement. More than 87% of Alaska's rural communities are affected by storm surges and coastal erosion. It's very important to understand that indigenous tribes which settled in Alaska for thousands of years prior to imperialist contact were forced to assimilate into Western culture and put onto reservations along Alaska's western coast in areas that were/are notoriously unstable and dangerous for inhabitation even before climate change was such an imminent concern. Please be sure to stay up to date, stay informed, and support the people who have been affected in these communities along Alaska's western coast as much as possible, whether it's through donating, making your own videos, boosting videos that already exist like this one, you know, raising awareness and everything for the situation. Just do what you can because we really do need to pitch in when it comes to just national support and security.